Here comes Milwaukee. Forbes another three. Oh, no! This is the Random Scrub Heat Podcast.
Welcome one, welcome all. We're back. Did you miss us? Because we didn't really miss talking about Miami Heat basketball. I don't know. I won't speak for Harry, but yeah, it's been March Madness, so it's been fun to watch a little bit of entertaining basketball for what it's worth. I would include the Heat in that if anytime they had an opportunity to gain any kind of ground, they would capitalize on it. But speaking of tonight, I have Harry with me. It's just me and Harry. George, his internet went fucking wallaby crazy, and he's not here. So we're doing it like this. We wanted to come back to you guys, and it's kind of like the last leg of the regular season, really. There's 10 games left for the Heat. They're really just shitting the bed on a lot of good opportunities to climb up because on losses like tonight and the context of it all with Jimmy sitting out, it feels like the world is collapsing, but then you look at the standings and it's like, they're only a game out of 6. And as we said a couple weeks ago, 6 is the sweet spot. 6 is where the Heat want to be. You probably avoid Boston until the Eastern Conference Finals. You probably avoid Milwaukee until the second round. Even if you would take Milwaukee in the first round, it's like been there, done that kind of thing. You're not that upset about it, but the Heat had a great opportunity tonight being only a half game out of the 6th spot behind the Pacers. Jimmy was out partying last night. All of a sudden, sick, head cold, doesn't feel like playing tonight. It's been a really, really disinterested, disappointing kind of season for the Heat in terms of availability. They have the third most different starting lineups in the NBA. That's unheard of for a team, quote unquote, competing for a championship. It's rough in these waters right now. I mean, not much is going right. We'll talk about the Bam threes a little bit later, but because that seems to be the only thing that is going right, at least in a positive trajectory for Miami. Harry, you recently attended a game, and it was a lot worse than the game we watched tonight against Golden State. But are you discouraged? Are you disinterested? Where are you kind of sitting right now with this team with 10 games left?
Yeah, I think just kind of, if you guys are watching us on here, like LJ's got the "we've had enough" is his name tonight. I mean, I think Heat fans are fed up. We all came into the season kind of knowing they needed a change. We had Damian Lillard basically asking to only come to the Heat. However you want to believe it went down, it did not get done. And this team just seems like it's been kind of treading water the entire season. Like, they started out poorly, they win 7 in a row, they lose 7 in a row, they win 4 in a row, they lose 4 in a row. I think I told you right before we started, LJ, the team is 9-8 since the All-Star break. And it's one of those things where I think we said the Heat had the second or third best remaining schedule, and they haven't been able to take advantage of it. I mean, you look at, like, for example, the Magic, they've been killing teams, and that's because they had the easiest schedule remaining. That's what good teams are supposed to do. You're supposed to beat the bad opponents in front of you and kind of level your way up in the playoffs. And the Heat just have this sick fetish with the play-in game. Anytime they've been close, we talked about it, at the start of the second half of the season, they had a shot at 4th. Like, they had a shot to be the 4th seed. And we both kind of talked about, like you mentioned before, 6 is the sweet spot. You avoid Boston until the Eastern Conference Finals. And you'd play Milwaukee if you could. It's basically sets up Cavs or Knicks and the 3, which are both teams they can beat. And I don't care.
Obviously, you want the Cavs, but
you'd prefer the Cavs just because your thought would be that the Knicks would be a tougher series in terms of physicality.
Josh Hart's lurking in those shallow waters to take out another ankle.
Yeah, he's looking to injure someone. So, but I'm not worried about them. Like, they have their own issues. There's, Tibbs is still playing guys 40 plus minutes and blowout wins. So I'm not worried about the Knicks. I know their fans will tell you they're winning the championship because they're delusional, but like, I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about the Cavs. So you'd win a first round matchup, And then you'd hope that Milwaukee would be a little scared. You saw again tonight, Doc Rivers blew a huge game to the Lakers without LeBron. They're a fragile team. I don't care what anyone says about the Celtics, LJ. I'm just multiple things. Denver's not losing this year. There's not. Assuming they stay healthy, Denver's going back to back. Even if Denver were to face, like if the Celtics make it through the East, how is anyone worried about that team? Like, Porzingis can't stay healthy. Tatum has shown time and time again he's not up to the task when the situation is clutch. And Jaylen Brown still can't dribble with his left hand. You know, their best player in the playoffs is probably like a Derek White, and he's a good player, but he's not winning you multiple series, I think is kind of the way to, like, he can win you games. He can put up, you know, elite role player performances where they're gonna win. But, you know, so you're just kind of looking at this Heat team. You're disappointed because they needed a change. They needed to move Herro, obviously. Even after the Damian Lillard trade fell through, they needed to move him. He's a guy that has not been reliable in terms of health. And for me, even when he is playing, I don't think he makes anyone around him better. He's a high-volume, tough shot maker, but when those shots aren't falling, he's useless. And maybe I know there were some teams that were interested over the summer. Maybe they could have gotten a couple pieces back for him. I don't know what a guy like that commands. Or what he gets back for the team over the summer. He's now.
It's definitely not anywhere close to what it was last summer. Brooklyn was willing to give up a first-round pick or two for him.
Yeah, and so you saw the stat on Twitter yesterday that basically Herro's missed 7 less games than Embiid over the last 5 seasons.
And Embiid has the injury bug label. Like, he's injury prone. We need to have a serious discussion now.
Yeah, we just have to admit what our eyes and our ears have told us. Like, he's injury prone. It's unfortunate. We're not wishing injury on anybody. We're not, we hope Tyler Herro has a long NBA career if that's what he wants to do. We just hope it's for a different team. And it's okay to admit, like, hey, this guy is injury prone. I don't know if fans are like worried that, other teams are going to read our tweets, if that's like the fear, but it's okay. Like,
and that's another thing though, that you bring up. It's like, if NBA GMs are really having their opinions swayed by absolute nobodies on Twitter, you do not deserve that chair of GM. You need to find a different job yesterday if you're letting your opinions on player development be swayed by people who, quite frankly, don't really know ball all that much, right? We say we know ball, but if you think us banging the desk for Tyler Herro to get off of our team is going to make a team like Brooklyn, say Tyler Herro was healthy this year, be like, you know what? Heat fans don't seem to like him. I think we might be able to finagle of only giving up 1 first-round pick. But now that's completely irrelevant because he's only played what? If he misses the shout out to Alex Sheltman, he tweeted today, if Tyler Herro doesn't play another game in the final 10 for the Miami Heat, he would have played for, what was it, Harry, 36 games this season?
Yes.
And if Terry Rozier plays 7 more games for the Heat, Terry Rozier will have played 35 games in a Heat uniform this season, to show you how absolutely minuscule Tyler Herro has been there for the Heat. Not just this season, last season in the playoffs, he missed every single game except for the first half of the very first game. And to be fair to the Herro stands, yes, we can't really say the team looks all that much better without Herro now because they just look like a heaping pile of dog shit either way. Does that have something to do with Duncan having his back be blown out? Also, shout out to you, Ricky J. Mark. I know you like that. Yeah, that probably has something to do with it. Jimmy missing games because he doesn't feel like it. Yeah, that probably has something to do with it. Bam having a lingering hip issue that's bothered him the last 4 months. Yeah, that probably has something to do with it too. But if you continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, Harry, what is that the definition of?
Insanity.
Exactly. That's what the front office basically is. If they think for one minuscule second that they can bring this core back for what would it be, a fifth year or a sixth year?
It would be 6.
That's fucking insane. The Miami Heat big three of LeBron, Wade, and Bosh had 4 years. And they got to the finals every single year, and it only lasted 4 years. This underachieving group would get 6? No. Come on, man.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said underachieving because I think we'd get into a bunch of arguments with people. It's essentially like they've gotten so close, and I don't know if people would have expected that. If you would have said, hey, this Heat team is going to 2 finals in the first 4 years, the day they traded for Jimmy Butler, I think people would have told you were crazy. So I think that they've overachieved based on the initial expectations, but underachieved based on seeing what they could do with Jimmy's postseason talent, with Bam and the player he's become. Right? Because remember, like, this is what, season 7 for Bam? So coming to the league, like, we knew he was good. We knew he was really good. And we knew that, defensively, he's been this good for a while. He's obviously gotten a lot better, but the offensive improvements have really helped his game where, like, Bam's trajectory is, Coop says this all the time because people get on him when he has a bad game. At Coop NBA, who's a really good writer for the Heat for NBA.com.
Phenomenal.
Bam easily has a Hall of Fame trajectory. He's going to pick up a lot more All-Star games. I think he'll get an All-NBA, like a pretty good All-NBA one of these. He'll get a few of those, as his career goes on. I think he's going to be a 2-time Olympic champion after this summer. So, that's nice company, and it's the Hall of Fame. It's not just the NBA. So you have guys who have gotten in for other reasons. So I think that's kind of like something we have to look at, is that the team has overachieved from where we probably thought they were going to be when they signed Jimmy, but underachieved in total performance, totality, and in getting these guys any help. Those 2 guys have gotten nothing help-wise in the 5 years Jimmy's been here.
A lot of that has honestly been too because I feel like after that first year with the bubble run, they've just gotten this smug arrogance about roster construction. After that initial bubble run, they think that everything they're doing, like, they can't do no wrong. They're following a yellow brick road, and they're just now finding out that Oz is just this motherfucker behind a curtain. They've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, and they have to learn to live with that, because my whole point of the underachieving is basically mainly talking in the regular season to set themselves up for success. They're continually taking a more difficult path, and has that prevailed for them? Yes, arguably yes. They've been able to continually overcome those disadvantages time and time again. In the bubble, they definitely, I don't want to say definitely, but they probably win that series against the Lakers if they stay healthy. They wouldn't, no matter what, they're not beating Denver last year. No matter what, they're not beating Denver this year. So is it all moot? Yeah, probably. I don't think anyone's beating Denver, like you said, Harry. They're in a stratosphere of their own. I don't even think they've had that good of a regular season, yet they're ahead of the standings of the upstart Thunder. They're ahead in the standings of the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have had an incredible regular season. At the end of the day, what are you fighting for? Because you're not going to beat them. It's all about the false sense of security, the false sense of hope that the Miami Heat have been relishing in for the last couple of years, for pretty much all of the Jimmy Butler era. I've enjoyed it. Like I said in the pre-show to you, Harry, that run last year as that 8 seed, miraculous, extremely fun, very entertaining. But did it end in anything worthwhile? If you define success as the friends you made along the way, cool. The Miami Heat have a massive championship ring that says best friends.
They're killing it.
They're the Golden State Warriors of the mid-2010s. If that's the bar, if that's what you want, If you're actually talking about chips, they got a Lay's bag where it's half air because it's not what we've wanted to see. I'm critical of them, much like everybody on the network, because I want to see them win. I enjoyed the ride last year. It was really, really, really fun, but we came up short. And they didn't necessarily learn. They did change the roster up a little bit, and we both applauded them for going after Terry Rozier. I think it was a good move. You've said it time and time again. They can trade that contract if they really need to, and they might have to because he hasn't been a great fit. He hasn't, and that's okay. I don't want them to get gun shy because they made a move and it hasn't panned out perfectly. It's panned out fine. Granted, we still have to see what he can do in what's probably going to be another play-in appearance, but I don't know, man. It's just looking at it like tonight. I don't know what's wrong with Jaquez. I want to shift the conversation a little bit over to him, maybe. -24. He had 12 points, not really anything to speak of because a lot of those came in he was fine in the first half, admittedly, but that second half, him, just like everybody else, fell off a cliff. His entire game has fallen off a cliff post All-Star break. And post injury, really, when he got that injury against what was in the first quarter or the second quarter of that Hornets game a couple months ago, when it looked like he was about to go for a career high. He has not been the same. His confidence in his offensive game has not been the same. I don't want to blame that solely on injuries, but it's hard to distinguish a night and day difference that poignant and not point to something like that because he was great and now he's been stinky doo doo poo poo. That's what he's been. How would you kind of describe Jaquez lately? And do you think it's the rookie wall, like that make believe thing that's honestly kind of real? Is that really what's like ailing him right now?
Yeah, I do. I was just thinking because I'm sure you watched a lot of college basketball this past weekend. Like these guys play
A lot.
Yeah, I mean, even if they go all the way in the tournament, right? Like UConn won last year, they're playing 40 games max. 40 games. Not a lot of nights off, but a lot more time off between games. It's not an every other day type of thing. And so I think that's a big adjustment for young players. It's why they come out, they play well. Like maybe we could look at it. Maybe his first 40 games are great and he's fallen off the cliff after that because then I think there'd be some merit to what I'm saying. Also, like you're right, the game in which he got hurt, I believe he had like 15 points in that first quarter. He was killing it. A guy that really needs his legs to work with his game is all post right now and all kind of movement down there and what he can do with his body. If that starts breaking down, if that's tired, if that's hurt, his game's not going to do well. And the fact that he's basically fallen off a cliff from three, I think when he first came in, that was what we were worried about coming in. Can this guy consistently hit threes? Because he was like, 31%, 32% at UCLA. And he came in here shooting 40. And it's basically, it's come back to the mean. It's fallen off a cliff. I think he's shooting like 28%. And they're leaving him open, which is crowding the paint, which is tough where you already have fits on the team that don't necessarily provide a ton of spacing. So it's just kind of all come down on them. It always seems to happen when the Heat come out and be like, what a great pick. Like the moment they pat themselves on the back for something, it all goes to shit. Like, oh, this is one of the best rookie seasons ever. And again, I just want to say, like, 5 Reasons does a lot of good work. I believe what they hear is probably what they heard. I don't think we need to say everything we hear. I don't think it's worth it. And I feel like we're jinxing that guy because it feels like since that came out, since we said how wonderful he is, he has not been good.
It's literally been like that video of the guy the guy running track that's like winning and then he just chucks up the deuces then trips and eats shit. That's literally where they were at.
And it's also that so like again it's one game but he missed the Cleveland game and that's the best game that the Heat have played this year. That's the biggest blowout. So I think he's just hurting the team right now. And that's listen, I went out and got a Jaime shirt. I like him. I'll move him tomorrow if it makes the team better. But if he's going to be on the Heat for a while, I'm going to support that guy, and I like him, and he will get better. And the Heat again, Heat made a nice pick drafting him. We have to just understand, like, sometimes you have to move on from these things. Sometimes he hits a rookie wall. Sometimes it's not going to work out, but it's just to bank every year on internal growth and hope that guys are going to have the same insane performances. You mentioned the run last year. Like, I'm sorry, LJ, we're not getting another Caleb Martin Eastern Conference, player of the series. Like, it's just not happening. That's not the player he is. He had an unbelievable series. He should have won MVP of that series. It's not happening again, and that's why you sell high, because the odds of it, like, we can talk about anything selling high. The odds of that stock continuing to stay that high are slim. That's why you sell and make the profit when you can.
And I know a lot of people will come back and be like, well, we can't just sell everyone when they're playing their best. And like, yes, that's true, but you also don't have to hold on to them until they fucking nuke their stock as well. This trade deadline would have been a great opportunity to unload some of those guys that, weren't exactly living up to expectations. Caleb Martin's not going to do that again. I was personally in the camp of get something for him, because I don't think that the Heat are honestly looking at re-signing him. I don't think they are. And I don't know. I know for a fact they shouldn't. I know they should not. They learned their lesson last offseason. Gabe Vincent suffered from the same thing that all the other Heat free agents suffer from. Their developmental projects go somewhere else and fail. Max Strus has kind of beaten those allegations for this first year in Cleveland. Good for him. You don't see that happen a lot. So when you do see it, you have to sit back and kind of applaud it a little bit. So good for Max Strus. But a player like that, you said that, if they're going to be on the Heat for a while, we need to celebrate, we need to root for them. I can tell you a player that's not going to be on the Heat for a while, and that's Patrick fucking Mills. He does not. I know they're hurt. I know better than most how injured this team is. You can't be giving him starter minutes. You can't, and he's not really getting starter minutes. He's getting the least minutes out of anybody as a starter. He only played 18 tonight. Highsmith had 30. Caleb Martin had 34. Darrell Wright had 16. Darrell Wright needs to be getting significantly more minutes over Patty Mills. End of story. I don't need to hear context. I don't need to hear reasoning why you feel one way or the other in support or in defense of what I said. He doesn't need to be playing that. He scored 2 points. He's shooting, I don't know the exact number. I know it's something catastrophically destructive. I said it on the post-game show last week. When Patty Mills joined the Heat, I thought the same thing that I thought when they acquired Kyle Lowry. And that was, cool, I'm not a fan of the player. Cool, though, they're on my team. They can't hurt my team anymore. And I was incorrect with Kyle Lowry because he stunk it up with his big, stinky, fat ass. And now Patrick Mills, he killed the Heat many a year. He couldn't crack the rotation on a tanking Atlanta Hawks roster. And now they want to give him make him be the starter right now, even though there's 2 better starting options behind him. No. You cannot do that. Patty Mills cannot be starting for you in the year of 2024 unless you are tanking. To my knowledge, the Heat are not tanking. It looks like they are when he's out there, though, even though he took a mean one to the chops tonight from Draymond Green, which wasn't a flagrant foul, by the way. How? I don't know. But it should have been, but it wasn't. Either way, I am a big fan of Darrell Wright, and I think that he needs to be getting more minutes, because even though he's not scoring, Patty Mills isn't scoring either. And is Patty Mills giving you okay defense? No. Darrell Wright is giving you okay defense. He got his face fried off the other night, but that's neither here nor there. Everyone got their face fried off against New Orleans. They're in a rough spot. Harry, you can touch on pause. You can talk about Patty Mills if you want to, or you can take the high road here and have some fun talking about Bam Adebayo shooting 3-pointers. The choice is yours, my friend.
I'll do both if you don't mind. I just think that
go right ahead.
The Mills stuff is terrible. Like, he shouldn't even be out there. I mean, if he's not making threes, he doesn't need to be out there. He's also, I saw him in person on Friday night. He is tiny and he is slow. And while that unfortunately has become kind of something the Heat are good at, finding slow, small guys who don't really contribute to winning NBA basketball. And I didn't mind the signing. You want to sign another shooter, they were worried about Herro. They knew that Richardson was out for the year, whatever. But he doesn't need to be starting. And I think the worst part is he's starting because he's not going to play in the postseason. I think that's why he's starting. Like, Spo is trying to keep his lineups, as they are. But he can't be out there. So if you want to start him, you can give him 2 threes. If he misses them, out of the game, not to be seen again, not to start the second half. Like that's how quick the hook has to be. On the other side,
Duncan, sorry to interrupt you. Why was Duncan Robinson's leash so goddamn short in years past? And Patty Mills gets this massive long leash because of what he's accomplished in his NBA career. As if he wasn't the last time he was relevant, the year ended or there was the third digit of the year we lived in was a 1. That was the last time Patty Mills was relevant.
Yeah, so I don't know. My thought is like maybe Spo kind of understood Duncan's mental fragility before. I was like, maybe I don't know. Look, when you spend a lot of time with someone, LJ, you kind of have an indication of how the day's going to go with them or the mood of that person. So you could have a conversation with someone and kind of know like, oh, they're feeling good today. Like it's good. Or like, hey, it's not their day. And I mean that in general. I might be talking about certain people, but like you that kind of stuff. So it's possible that Spo being around Duncan for so many years, like, oh, he's got it tonight. Like nah, he's not. He's still in his head. So those things are all possible. But the leash being that short, after we've seen Duncan kind of have, you can call it a renaissance to his game, is unfortunate because other guys who are worse than him seem to get, like you said, a longer rope. And at some point, like you're the coach, you're now the highest paid coach in basketball. You're here for the long run. You're not going anywhere. You got to have the balls to talk to people and make moves. Hey, you signed Patty. Hey man, we appreciate being here. Please stay ready. Have a fucking seat and, fart it up, keep it warm because you're not going anywhere. But we're tired and you look tired. So let's sit down and let's see what can happen. On the flip side of that, our new 3-point champion, Bam Adebayo, I don't know. Did he take another? Sorry, I ended up missing the other half of the game.
He did. He shot 3 of them, and I liked all the looks that he got tonight.
So was he 1 for 3?
Yep.
All right, so he's 7 for 11 in his last. So he's hitting them at a nice clip. I don't expect
phenomenal.
I don't expect him to shoot 60-ish% from 3 for his career, but if it's 34-35 for a guy that big, if he can stretch it out to the corner or top of the key, and it's more about shooting them with confidence and not thinking about it. I mean, that would be awesome. That's really what you want. And I think you got to kudos to him. He had a reporter kind of say, hey, what happened? And he said, I woke up one day and I just started shooting threes. And everyone laughed. But I don't think he was kidding. Like, I just think he decided that he's going to take these now. What is Spo going to say to him if he's making them? There's really no argument to be had if he's hitting them at a decent clip. And he's like, listen, we've said it for years. It hasn't been as smooth of an offensive transition, but he's got that Kevin Garnett feel to him. And I just think that like he's moving in that direction. It's going to take time. It took him a long time to get to this point, but he's just on that trajectory. So give him credit. He's been the Heat's best player this year. He's shown up. He's played through injuries. He's played through pain. And I want to get to that. So come back to me after, but I want to hear from, we finally got our Australian correspondent to chime in.
Yeah, George's kangaroo Wi-Fi finally hopped back in. So, George, we're talking about Bam finally shooting threes. If I recall correctly, on the very first episode ever of the Random Scrub Heat podcast, we all said our pieces on what we wanted to see from Bam's game, and you said, I want to see Bam shoot at least 1 3 a game. Well, that wish has been granted at least in the last week or two, because he's doing it pretty much every single game, and he's usually hitting one every single game too for the most part. So what have you been enjoying this renaissance in his game a little bit? Because there's not much else to like from the perspective of offensive basketball from the Miami Heat.
I am enjoying it. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I think it's a very necessary step in the right direction for his trajectory as a player. I joined right at the cusp of hearing the name Kevin Garnett, and it really does give me glimpses of that sort of potential, and I'm happy with that. I really am happy with that. He came out with a quote the other day saying he just woke up one day and wanted to shoot threes, and I don't believe that for a second. I feel like he's been working up that confidence and then finally said, you know what, I'm ready to start taking threes. I don't think you just wake up and go, I'm going to change my game plan today. It doesn't happen. You see him in the offseason shooting threes, they go in. You see him in the All-Star game, took a three. I don't know if it went in. I think it went in. But he wants to shoot the three. He wants to get that into his game. I really think it's integral for him as a scorer to take that step forward by putting that three in his arsenal. It just gives him so much more room to operate on the floor. Gives him another weapon. I feel like he was really playing into the hands of the bagless claims. You know, it was spin, layup, or spin, step back, mid-range jump shot, and that was it. And it gets kind of sickening because it's very easy. That's so easy to defend. Those two of the easy shots in basketball to defend. So seeing him take that step is really, really, it's good. And he had a good game today. I watched the game. He had a good game. It was the game itself was terrible for us offensively. Patty Mills can't shoot. Caleb Martin is Caleb Martin, and I don't think we should be expecting anything more from him. Like in terms of like high production scoring, he's never really been a high production scorer. He's more of he's a fiend of the opportunity, where it's like you saw in the playoffs last year against the Celtics. He really did he rose to the occasion. He plays into those underdog claims. And look, the team is in a struggle at the moment. Hayward Highsmith looks great though. I don't know. It was really good. So
yeah, they wasted the Hayward Highsmith game.
Yeah, the Jovic thing as well is interesting because he's doing a little bit of everything on the floor, but he just reminds me of another. He's the same archetype as like Caleb Martin in that sense, where it's just like high volume shots on a given day, and we'll do a little bit of everything else if he can. Defends kind of well, but we just don't know. On any given day, that could change. So I'm not saying he could have done better or should have done better. I'm just happy with his performance in general, just the fact that he's actually getting minutes. But I think my favorite quote of the entire year, and it still stands to this day, is when he says, I either start the game, play 35 minutes, or I don't play at all. And I think, you know what, it's the truth. It's absolutely the truth. It's the opportunity that he gets is not consistent in any way, and I feel like he needs to have a year of consistent basketball under his wings to really develop as a player like that. But look, the team's in a rough spot at the moment. They're on the cusp of playing. You know, I don't like the play-in tournament. I never have, never will. But I feel like there's perks in everything. You got to look at the silver lining in everything. Worst comes to worst, you win. Like the good news is you win, and then we come back to being the 8th seed again. And if we lose and then win, we come in as being the 8th seed again, and we can try and do what we did last season. But I don't know if this team, how do I put this, deserves to be among the top teams in the East. And I want to say that lightly because I'm not saying they're not a good team. I do. I love my Miami Heat, and I really think they are a decent team. But with all these injuries and the fact that they haven't really solidified a game plan or a rotation all season, it's going to be very difficult for them to beat those other teams. Like there are hungry teams on the cusp of the play-in and stuff like that. And I don't know if they've got what it takes to actually get themselves over the line.
It's funny that you say there are hungrier teams because the Sixers have the same exact record as the Heat. Embiid's coming back eventually. And not even that, though. The Chicago Bulls, 3 games ago, they're on a 3-game losing streak now. The Heat are very fortunate that the Chicago Bulls are riding a 3-game losing streak because erase those last 3 games, the Bulls would only have 35 losses. The Heat after tonight have 33. You're lucky that they are also stinking ass right now. Otherwise, this play-in, your home playoff play-in game would not be a sure thing. It's already not a sure thing having the tied with Philadelphia. But the fact that if the Bulls weren't playing like complete ass right now, it would be even more of a clusterfuck in there. That it's messy. It's very, very, very messy. Harry, you wanted to jump back in?
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to kind of get to a little bit, maybe we can discuss it for a few, is like the Jimmy Butler stuff is objectively frustrating as a fan. You can respect what Jimmy has done in the postseason and understood like how good he's been and been mad about kind of how he treats the regular season. And, to take off a game of this magnitude tonight, there's 11 games left in the season. This was probably a game they probably needed to win if they want to avoid the play-in. They can still do, they're still playing the teams in front of them they need to play. They play a game against Indiana, a game against Philly. So, if they win those games, maybe their chances of avoiding the play-in are a bit better. But they need to win tonight. We know, like, I'm all for a guy doing whatever the fuck he wants on his days off. Like, whatever you want, man. Assuming you're not doing anything illegal, go enjoy yourself. But I just don't understand him posting videos of him at the Miami Open. He's fine. Like, he wasn't sick yesterday. And for him to go from he's probably like he missed a shoot around, he's probable. No, he's got a bad head cold. Like, I'm skeptical. I never try to be a conspiracy theorist. I think most of those people are very, very stupid, but I'm just at the point where like he needs to play. I think
so you're not saying you're not a conspiracy theorist, so you don't think that the boat crashing into the Baltimore Bridge today was because of an immigrant issue?
Yeah, I don't think it's because Mexico exists. So.
I know you retweeted that. I saw it.
Yeah,
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Are people talking about that?
Yeah.
Not normal people.
Anytime you can turn something into a reason why the border should be closed or other races shouldn't exist. That's
So a boat hits a bridge.
not like a huge, not just like a boat, like
A massive cargo freight took out a bridge, and people are like, how can I use this disaster to be as racist as possible? And that's America.
Are people
You sure you want to come live here, George?
Were there casualties?
Yeah, there were 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck that.
And people saw it and were like, you know
No.
what? How can I make this about me and my
How can you
political
do that
view?
though? How can you, as a regular, like just a normal human being with normal emotions, go to that and see that happen, and then really like say this was the fault of someone else,
Well, that's
Let's
just
not
it,
look at
George. Being a normal human being, you can't do that.
and then put race into it? Look, I'm going to be in LA. I'm going to be in LA in 3 weeks, so I'll see whoever's there in 3 weeks.
Nice.
Does anyone live close to LA here? I don't think they do. Definitely not. Harry is shaking his head. For those of you who are not watching from our YouTube channel, Harry has been vigorously shaking his head. He will not be coming down to LA when I'm there. LJ also looks
I was
like
thinking like, George, I've actually flown from Boston to Iceland, and it's a shorter flight from me going from
you've
Fort
been to
Lauderdale.
Iceland.
Yeah, but it's a shorter flight for me going from Fort Lauderdale to LA.
Yeah, the flight's about the same length for me too.
Shit.
I'd have to take
Well-
off a day of work just for the travel.
Can we meet somewhere in the middle? Like, I don't know. Something's coming to my head. Like the word Wyoming.
Wyoming is not in the middle.
Okay. Well,
Texas is in the middle, and that we could actually go down there and
Kansas.
make it all about.
Kansas.
We can blame, what do you call it, the border stuff again.
How about Colorado? Denver? Anyone?
I actually would like to go to Colorado, but
Yeah, I'm probably going in a few months. So
at risk of jumping even further off topic and talking about something that would actually be entertaining, let's talk about more Miami Heat basketball as we close here. They have 10 games left. Okay, let me read off the 10 games for you. Let's walk through them here, and you guys can tell me what you think the record's going to be here if they actually can make a push. Harry already listed off a couple of them, but we'll get there. Their first game is in 2 days against the Portland Trail Blazers. Will Joe Cronin win? Probably not. Then you get the Washington Wizards. And if you would have asked me a couple months ago, would that be a win? I'd be like, hell yeah. we've already seen them lose at home to the Wizards. Now they have to go on the road to Washington. That's no longer a guarantee. We've already seen this team shit their britches against that team. It's very likely they do it again. Then you get at home against New York. They've played the Knicks good. It's still regular season Knicks. They might lose that game. There's a good chance they could lose that game. Then you get at home versus Philly. Still no Embiid, but you just lost to the Sixers already on the best game that Kyle Lowry has had in nearly half a year. Coincidence? I think not. And then you have for the Little Incredibles. Then you have Houston, who's playing really good basketball right now. Houston's not a slouch anymore. They're in a race with the Warriors for the play-in tournament in the West. So that's going to be a dogfight. Then you get an extremely important game against Indiana. Who knows what could happen there? Do the Heat bring their A game? I hope, because that you win that game, there's a good chance you might be able to secure the 6th seed. Then after that, you get the Hawks, who usually, they take care of business against the Hawks. No Trae Young now. Who knows what could happen there? Then you get Dallas at home. That you're probably losing that game.
That's a loss.
You're probably losing that game.
It's not that we're not better than them. Like, we have a better roster overall or anything like that. I don't want anyone to say anything like that. But they have found something so good with the big man rotation of Lively and Daniel Gafford.
Gafford's been incredible.
And I've been a huge advocate of Gafford. You can see all the shows before I said I would rather the Heat trade a first-round pick and Kyle Lowry to the Washington Wizards for Tyus Jones and Daniel Gafford. That would have been incredible.
Would have been a great trade.
Would have been a really good trade. I think that was more than viable at the time. But anyway.
And then your last 2 games after that are 2 home games in 2 nights against the Toronto Raptors. There's a good chance Toronto probably isn't playing for anything at that point. So it's like,
is Jonte Porter playing?
if he is, take his under. Bet that motherfucker's under crazy. If he's playing.
That shit was crazy. Is it the Discord leaks?
Yeah. I just want to know, how did he think it was going to happen? All of a sudden, a huge amount of money bet on a guy who never has his own props. And they didn't think that was a red flag? That wasn't going to set off any alarms? Like, damn, that's a lot of money to be putting on the unders for this guy who already had very low unders. Does he know something we don't know? Yes, he did. But Adam Silver's a bitch. But if there's one thing he's not going to do, is not make an example out of someone who means absolutely
I like
to the overall byproduct.
I don't think he's a bitch.
I think Adam Silver's a big, bald bitch.
I don't think he's a bitch.
Harry, tiebreaker. Adam Silver, big, bald bitch. Yes or no?
Have not liked him since the bubble. He's a lizard man, and
him and Mark Zuckerberg just shed their skin together.
But you're 100% right. He is going to lay the hammer down on Jonte Porter.
Oh, he'll never play a basketball game ever again.
Well, he'll
There's an argument after this season he wouldn't have played another game again either way.
Yeah, the best clip is him banking in that 3, and he's like, shit.
You could see it in his eyes like, fuck. I just cost myself so much money.
Yeah. He was like, oh, I'm going
to shoot this intentionally hard to clang off the backboard. And then he banked it in. And he's like, stay cool. Stay cool.
Yeah. It's not so bad.
Can we ban his brother too, just while we're at it?
Sure.
Who's his brother?
Michael Porter Jr.
There's no way they're related.
They are.
Michael Porter Jr.
Wait, they really are?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they are, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I see the resemblance a little bit.
Oh, they actually, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
His brother looks a little, I don't mean this in like a really bad cancel me way. He looks stupid. I was going to say he looks a little slow, but
he is. It's guaranteed it's his brother.
Yeah. He's not going to be playing NBA basketball anymore. But that's your last 10 games. What do you think there? I see eight absolutely there's at least 2 losses in there. And that's being optimistic.
Look, you're versus a Hawks team that just came back at 30 down against the Boston Celtics.
I have to cut you off there. Did you see the documentary they made?
The documentary?
They posted a quick little edit on Twitter. They called it 30 for 30. The Hawks Twitter, they posted it today. They made a
Is
little
it
mini
funny?
movie about them coming back last night.
No, I haven't seen it. Was it good?
I didn't watch it. I saw it
What
on
the
my
hell are you
timeline. I said, "I'm
talking to
not
me
watching
about
this
it then?
shit." I saw it. I was able to gain context, and I said, I'm not watching this.
Okay, I see it now. 42 seconds.
That's
Anyway,
42 seconds. I'm glad I didn't
I
waste.
think that I agree. There's at least 2 losses in there somewhere. You have to play with intent. You have to play through injury. You have to play through pain. You don't want to end up as the 8th seed. You don't want to end up as the 7th seed or the 9th seed. You know what I mean? At all costs, you want to be the 6th seed. That's your goal. That should be your goal right now. Is like, okay, we've sucked all year. And I won't lie, as a Miami Heat fan, have I loved watching my team play? Absolutely. Has it been fun all the time? Fuck no. I don't care what anyone says. I don't think it's been fun for most Heat fans, especially the way it's going right now. But I would love to verse the Bucks in round 1. I would love that because we would win. I don't care what anyone says. We would win that series. They are so void of talent after their big 2. And what's his name? Brook Lopez is taking a massive step back.
And the
Porter's
decaying corpse of Chris Middleton.
Chris Middleton sucks. He sucks. The Celtics can go and massacre the Hawks. Actually, no. The Hawks, low key, versus the Celtics in the first round. I'd like that. I think the Magic are going to get swept. They're going to get swept by the Knicks. And then we verse the. You know what? If things stay the way that they are, we would have the easiest route. I don't know how you'd like to say it, to the finals with coming 7th, being the 7th seed. So winning our first playing game against the Sixers, something like that. Because I would hate to verse the Celtics, then the Knicks again, then whoever, God granted we actually get past that series. I think the Heat versus the Bucks in the first round is an easier matchup than the Celtics. And then beating the winner of the Cavs and Pacers.
I agree. That's basically just the reverse of how we want them to get the 6th seed. Because it's obviously you take your game against the Cavs or the Knicks. I think the Cavs probably stay there. And then you deal with the Bucks in the second round just so you kind of have a fine tune kind of series. But either way, I mean, I literally said it the night that the news broke that Doc Rivers was there. I didn't want to play the Bucks at all. And then they hired Doc Rivers, and I'm like, okay, never mind. I'm fine with it. Bring on the Bucks. I know they have Giannis. I know they have Dame. They have Doc Rivers, and that is enough to instill the maximum amount of confidence.
I just think you want to I think you want to build up in the postseason. The odds are you're not going to be playing your best in the first round. They have done. I think it has helped teams a bit if you can avoid the play-in. They give you essentially 6 days off after the season ends, so I think that's quite good for teams. That was not the case before the play-in tournament started. So you'd have teams coming off a regular season where a lot of times they were fighting for seeding and up until the last game, and then have to quickly go into a 7-game playoff series. It's a slog. Even the big 3 teams, if you remember, they didn't have a tough time in those games, but they definitely weren't playing their best until later rounds. And I think this Heat team is the same. Again, I'd rather be a higher seed with home court, but if this is, if they can build it up this way, if it's Cavs, Knicks 1, Bucks 2, Celtics 3, that's the best way for them to get out of the East. That buildup is the best way to do it. And I'm just not sure why every opportunity to rise to the occasion, to claim the 6th seed, to push the Pacers and the Sixers down is met with a lack of effort or guys not showing up for games. Listen, man, I understand playing 6 sucks. Playing hurt sucks. I can't imagine what these guys put their bodies through, but that's what they signed up for. And I'm a little frustrated. Again, I know I talked about this before, but it was bothering me today. I'm annoyed that there are videos of Jimmy enjoying the Miami Open yesterday, and he's not ready today. My thought is, man, he got hungover and he didn't want to play. Like that's what I thought. That's what happened. Like this could have been his flu game, but he didn't want to play. So again, Michael Jordan didn't have the flu. He was drunk as hell, drunk as fuck. So, that's frustrating. I do not know where this is going to lead. If they don't win, which again we don't predict they will, if it's an earlier exit than we want, I'm interested in this summer because there has to be changes. We can't keep saying that. They can't keep running back the same crap. They're not good enough. And what do you do when you're not good enough? You make changes to try to get better. And that's where they are. We have to stop pretending. It's okay to say it. You don't have to get mad at people. No one's reading Hot Take Harry's tweets. No, sorry guys, no one's reading our tweets. We can say what we want. We can be honest. We can call Tyler injury prone. We can say this team isn't good enough. We can say they missed the boat with some of these trades. We could say they missed the boat by not selling high on Caleb Martin or other guys. And you made that point earlier, LJ, like, oh, but what do we do if we trade these guys? Then you have the assets to get better players. That's why you trade guys at the,
what a concept.
At the height of their value. That's how this stuff works. So
I have to do the math on that one. I don't believe you.
I will show you the work.
Break up the
I'll write it out for you. But yeah.
Very quickly. Sorry to interrupt.
You're good. I'm done.
Is there a timetable for Herro's return?
No.
Do we have anything?
No. Not a lick. We do know that Kevin Love's probably coming back.
If I see one human being defending him, if he doesn't play the rest of the season, and I see one person defending him, I'm coming for blood.
You'll see more than one person.
You have lost it. If you think that after this many years of the same crap, that you're willing to pull up with it. And him posting his crap to this fucking storyboard or whatever the hell these kids are using these days, I'm sick of it. I want to sweet chin music him straight in the face. I'm done with him. I want you off my team. I want you to be playing for the New Orleans Pelicans or the Charlotte Hornets. I don't care. Go wherever you like. Pick your poison and accept a trade package from that team. Because you not being healthy is not always out of your control. You dove for a stupid loose ball in the finals last season, in the playoffs, and you didn't play the rest of them properly.
George, this is going to be an American joke, but there's 100% correlation between people who defended January 6th and people who are still defending Tyler Herro. There's 100% correlation.
The answer begins with the letter W.
So that's where we're at with this. Like, they wanted him to be the great white hope. He is not. They still want him to be because it makes them feel better to have a basketball player who's good and white and American. They will.
Oh,
I don't know.
I didn't know what January 6th was. No.
Okay. Well, welcome to.
It's really funny.
Yeah, maybe we should just wrap it up right there.
Okay. Harry, you can cut this out if you don't want to. If you don't want this in here, we can cut it out. Hold on. I honestly do think that Kevin Love comes back relatively soon. I think Jimmy probably plays the next couple of games. I think Duncan comes back soon. The reinforcements are on the way. I think all of that is in the fray, right? Like that's here, that's coming, and we can be happy about that. But I don't know if Tyler's coming back. I know they wouldn't have ruled him, or they wouldn't have kept it going this long if they didn't think he was going to at least play in the playoffs. But I was rambling long enough to find the outro, and Ashley Babbitt deserved what happened to her. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be good people.
Need a stop and a rebound. Fournier for three.
That was the Random Scrub Heat podcast.